Hi, welcome to Dean Park. In this video I'm going to be taking you through the initial stages of the building of the Railway Laser Lines 2-lane engine shed. This is quite a sizable structure from Railway Laser Lines, and I'm going to be showing in this video the initial preparation of the parts and initial assembly of the skeleton frame. In the second part of this series I'll go into the interior details, fitting of the roof structure and adding little bits of bespoke detail as well. Stay tuned because in the second part I'll be going through a special offer that you can get by using a discount code for shopping at Railway Laser Lines. If you have any questions for what you see in this video, please do get in touch. Cheers! I'm back in the shed, and what I'm doing now is I'm going to prime these parts of the two-lane shed. At the top there we've got the hard standing, and at the very bottom we've got the two thin central parts for the hard standing to go in between the rails. The two larger bits there are the sides, the skeleton parts. I only have to prime one side of that because the brickwork side will be attached to the unprimed side, if you like. At the end there we've got the two ends of the shed, one with the two doors and one with the solid wall. I'll be using Humbrol primer. It's an acrylic spray, dries fairly quickly. After one coat I'm just going to sand it back a little with some wet and dry paper before dusting it down and applying a second coat. That'll then give me a basis for putting any other colours that I wish. For example, a lighter grey for the interior, and then the concrete paint for the hard standing, just like I've done at the depot. Okay, what I've got in front of me here are roof trusses with supports. You get 7 in a pack. I was given a couple spare by Steve just to play around with different colours. Looking back at pictures of the kind of era which I'm modelling, this maybe has been put up in the 70s into the 80s. The common colours were greys, dark greys, and actually off-whites. There is evidence of trusses and stuff in that colour. I was actually going to do that, but I came across this dark grey. It's number 67 Humbrol tank grey, and I thought quite like the look of that, and it will go well with the lighter concrete walls. As I say, I was going to do the white, and that's just white primer with a white matte top coat. The third option for me was yellow, but looking at documentation and photographs, yellow wasn't as common, and it's probably more of a modern colour, so not really maybe dated to the 70s and 80s. So I've chosen that grey there, and I'll have 7 of them inside the shed in the tank grey. What I've got in front of me here are the internal and the external ends for obviously the end of the shed with the doors in it. What I've done with both is I've primed them with grey primer, and then I've gone over the bottom one, which is the internal one, with the Humbrol 64 light grey aerosol, and it gives a kind of dull grey painted finish, which it goes well with the dark trusses which I've just shown you. The top here is just so far been painted, airbrushed with Rail Match light brick, and that will then be given the mortar treatment and then dry brushing. You'll notice I've masked off the top bit here. That was grey primed, and all I've got to do then is take the masking tape off after I've done the brickwork, mask the brickwork off quickly, and spray the top bit the grey, the external grey colour, which I've chosen to do, which I'll come to later. After the brick's all toned and mortared, I'll give some weathering shades when the shed is all together. In the previous clip I just applied the paint tones. In this stage what I've done is I've added the Humbrol 121 Stone Wash, which is a kind of stony colour, thinned down with some enamel thinners, brushed all over the brickwork, given 2 or 3 minutes to kind of settle into the recesses, then wiped off with a dry paper towel or a paper towel slightly dampened with enamel thinners. After that's dry, you can evaluate how successful it was. If it's not prominent enough or you've wiped most of it away, you can reapply. Remember, when you look at a brick wall, the mortar course is not the first thing you see. The brick is. So you don't want something that's too prominent. After all that's dried, I dry brushed some of the Humbrol 70, which is red brick, and some of the rail match dark brick. And I also went over it again with the dry brushing technique with the rail match light brick again, because you need to kind of reinvigorate that colour after it's been partially covered in the mortar course. Once you're happy with it, leave it. You can always go back and add later on. You don't want too many variations that are just too obvious. It's got to be kind of subtle. The very long piece that you see in front of you now is the base of the whole shed structure, and it is in the form of the hard standing, and it comes in two parts and you fix them both together. It's the very first thing you actually do with the kit, and it's got a nice undercut to allow the sleepers and the actual fastenings from the rail to sit nicely with the hard standing. You'll notice also I've got two of the truss and roof supports just loosely placed in position just now, just to show you how it all will fit together. You've got the two notches at the side here which will allow the skeleton frame to attach itself to the truss and supports, and it all clicks together with these kind of little notches that have been lasered out from the side of the hard standing. The hard standing itself is just been primed at the moment. It'll be treated to precision paints, weathered concrete, and then some weathering done with various tones of greys and browns and oil spills to give it the kind of hard standing used look as a depot floor would look like. A major aspect of kit building which many modelers overlook is the dry fit. And what I mean by that is putting a kit together without any glue to check that it all fits correctly. This avoids the race against time panic that when you've suddenly put glue on something, you've tried to fit it together, it's not playing ball, it's not going together, you start to panic, oh my goodness, the glue's starting to go off, I can't readjust, and you end up with a project that's, far short of being what it should be. The dry test allows you to test all the joints, test all the fittings, and then once you're happy with it, apply adhesive. If you're not happy with it, you've not got any glue to worry about. You can then go away and do alterations. As you can see here, I've introduced the skeleton internal side. This is the painted side which will be facing inward, and that's just a Humbrol 64 grey from an aerosol. I've then clicked it in to the small fittings with the trusses and roof supports, and into the base section as well. So this area here fits together perfectly. The one at the back, however, needs a bit of adjustment because it's not quite fitting in to the top slot. So that is really the important aspect of dry fitting or dry clamping or cramping. Okay, very much recommended that you do this with any kit, especially this one where there's fragile parts, obviously with the trusses. Okay, here I've got the internal skeleton piece and one of the internal skeleton ends. I've just painted them in a Humbrol light grey, which is number 64 from an aerosol. I'm just test fitting or dry fitting to make sure that the slots all fit in together. If it doesn't fit without the glue, it's not going to fit with the glue. Just opening up a couple of the notches there, just maybe the thickness of the paint, stopping them going in. Just test fitting again. I'm now fairly happy there that we're good to go with adhesive. What I'm using is York Model Making Magnetic Mates. They're a great kit. You get two large in the kit, and I'm using those for the corners here of the build. These are great for checking the squareness of the corner as well. However, I like to just double check by using a engineer's square on the inside and also on the outer corner. Okay, I'm taking the magnets off now in preparation for adhesive, and I'm using Rocket Max. It's a thicker glue than the Rapid, and it also gives you a little bit more working time than the Rapid adhesive that I usually use on my kits. I always decant the glue onto a bit of paper, scrap of MDF or something, and apply it with a cocktail stick. You'll very rarely see me take a super glue bottle straight to the model. If it comes out too much, it oozes everywhere. The cocktail stick method, or a pin or a needle, gives you more control with this fast setting adhesive. I'm putting glue on the inside of the notches, and I obviously apply the inside of the notches on the other side to be glued. So when they do go together, they give a complete connection and a bond. Just take your time, make sure it's not going to ooze out when you do press together. You'll be able to tell there's too much glue on it. If you do get a little bit of glue on the surface, just take a scrap of paper and then push it outwards like this, and that allows you to get rid of any excess that might ooze round the corner. Okay, working against the clock here now. I'm bringing the two pieces together, pushing the notches in, checking that it's square with the engineer's square. And then I'm going to bring up the magnets to secure it while it bonds. Obviously the magnets are going to give you a perfect 90-degree angle as well. You could use PVA for this, but you're wanting a good connection quickly that doesn't move around when it's setting, and obviously the super glue allows you to do that. As you can see here, I've applied the other end. I'm now going to glue it in position. Exactly the same technique as the other end, using the Rocket Max. Okay, now that both of the skeleton ends are attached to the side piece, I'm going to put in the end truss using PVA. Now, I could take a cocktail stick here, or a pin, or a thin applicator, but I'm happy with the cocktail stick method, and I'm applying it from the outside inwards. This gives me more control. If I do tend to put too much on the cocktail stick, it oozes on the actual skeleton side, which you're not going to see and you can wipe off. If you did it the other way around and you put too much glue in, you're getting glue on a painted surface, which you're going to see, and it's just more cleanup. So I tend to come from the outside in. Sure, you can go from the inside just to add little bits and pieces, but applying the main body of the adhesive, whether it's PVA or super glue, is best done from the outside in this particular case. Okay, what I'm kind of doing slightly off camera here is I'm applying a dot method of PVA to the back of the truss. Now I'm not going to go do every member of the truss. I'm just doing the top trusses up to the apex, the bottom horizontal bar, and some of the verticals. Using a dot method, you're not going to have too much glue. You can spread it out with a cocktail stick as well if you like. It's going to be held in place by the notches at each side. This is just to keep it planted against the back wall. Okay, I'm now applying glue to the little notches or the noggins. Okay, I'm going to offer it up now to the notches. I'm going to leave the truss at a slight angle off the back piece just now, as you can see there. Just hand pushing it in. Maybe I've checked this before I applied glue, so it's I know that it fits. Okay, I'm just checking now that everything's happy, and I'm going to offer up the truss to the back and then finish pushing it in to the slots. Just tighten it with your finger and thumb. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these clamps. They've got, the orange bit's quite a nice plastic rubberized grip. They're just the right strength of grip. If you're worried about getting the anything damaged, you could put a little bit of scrap card or between the truss and the orange bit. I've just put one at the bottom there just to hold it into position while it's gluing as well, and I'm using a cocktail stick just to scrape off any glue that's oozed out. Okay, just very quickly, applying the last side of the skeleton frame using the same method as before, with the Rocket Max for the walls and the PVA for the noggins and the slots for the trusses. Take your time with this and make sure everything's aligned before allowing to set. Okay, here's the fascia above the door here. This is a a spare part, shows how thin and fragile it is. I've primed and painted it. On one side it's XF19 from Tamiya, it's sky grey. There's two methods to attach this to the build, which I'll show you on this scrap piece of wood. The top one is using the 3M display mount, and the bottom one is using the rocket card glue. Now you've kind of got to do the card glue one in stages, taking a cocktail stick and just applying glue to maybe 4 or 5 of the slats with the card glue before pressing into position and working your way along step by step. The display mount is probably the neater way to go and gives a firm bond. Make sure when you put the fascia on, the apexes line up with the apex of the back piece and it's flush with the ends. Here I'm just getting this ready to apply glue to fit to the skeleton frame. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to scrape it into a kind of crisscross pattern using a Stanley blade. This is to give it a key for the surface, and it helps it grip better when you place it onto the skeleton frame. Here we go, the wall's now fitted in place and I'm using the clamps to hold it together. Notice I've put bits of card at the top to protect the fascia from the clamps. Well, as you can see now, I've got the external walls attached to the skeleton frame. It's important that when you put these on, you either weigh them down or clamp them in position whilst you're waiting for the glue to go off. Using PVA is great for this because it gives you a bit of adjustment time to allow you to position them properly before the glue starts to set. If you use super glue, you're really up against it with regard to alteration time. So I would recommend for this part, as per instructions, using PVA. It also allows you to wipe it away very easily with a damp paper towel and then dry it with a dry bit of kitchen cloth or something. Well, that's it for part 1 of the shed build. In part 2 I'll be going over the internal fittings of the shed along with the roof structure and obviously fitting things like windows and doors. If you have any questions on part 1, please do get in touch. Cheers just now.